Hello and welcome to the latest edition of In Good Kompany podcast. City cruise to victory on the South Coast, and I've got three fellow Blues here to talk through what has been a very good week for City. Starting with you, Bernard. How are we doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I had a good day yesterday. I was up at 2:20 for work, and I got back in bed at 2:20 after being in work, and then down to Brighton. So I'm absolutely shattered, but I'm up at 2 again tomorrow. So just fun. It's just fun, mate. It's just never ending. And there's plenty of United fans in work, so I can have a bit of fun at their expense. That'll make things a little bit better for me tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously mentioning there the game of the century, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Stuart, I believe you were also down in Brighton. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, we had a good time. Went down yesterday morning, 5 to 8 train to London and then across. And then we came back this afternoon. But we got like a 12:30 train back from London back this morning. Yeah, it was decent. Good day. Was had by all.
Yeah, good stuff. And Abdul, did you enjoy the game?
I think Abdul's froze.
No, he enjoyed it that much that he's got such a big smile on his face. He can't take it off.
Comatose.
Yeah, so we'll just quickly run through what we're going to be looking at today. Obviously, a really good win for City yesterday. 4-1 victory against Brighton, which topped off what had been a really good week, actually. Another bumper victory in the week in the Champions League. So we'll start at the Amex. Guys, what was the atmosphere like? I know it sounded like a decent tea time kickoff on the TV. Did it sort of transpire to that? Was it a good atmosphere?
Yeah, I thought it was all right from what I can remember.
Well, I was a bit more sober because I was driving when I got home, so I had to drive to Middleton, get the coach, and then drive home from Middleton. So yeah, I was a bit more sober. Yeah, it was all right. It was okay. I've not been to Brighton Amex before. I've only ever been to the Goldstone ground, so I wasn't too sure. But yeah, it was all right. It's obviously quite a long end, isn't it? So obviously the right hand side was sort of singing, and the middle had catch on, and so it was if the whole lot have been singing every time, I didn't quite catch on half the time, you know what I mean? And we didn't do those songs where we're continually singing them. But and the Albion fans were okay once he got a couple of things, you know what I mean? Because I think the sound's quite good at that ground. I think
the acoustics are quite nice, aren't they?
Yeah, it's well suited for sound. That unlike say the Etihad, for instance. But yeah, it was good. I mean, we outsung them as usual, as we normally do as away fans at these places. So all good.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll kick it off with the football then, because it was, if ever has ever been summed up by a game of two halves, I think yesterday's game against Brighton was pretty much that, wasn't it? City 4-1 victors in the end, 3-0 up at half-time, an absolute blistering 15-minute spell that saw City go 3-0 ahead. And then Brighton sort of came back into the game definitely for the first half an hour in the second period. They probably should have scored more than they did. And obviously Ederson ruined his own clean sheet record by flying into a tackle and giving away a penalty. So we'll go back to that first half to start off. I was watching the game and I thought, as soon as Lewis Dunk does a John Stones impression to clear it off the line, I'm thinking, oh no, here we go again. Another game that sees City absolutely dominate attack but get foiled by defensive heroics. But it didn't really transpire to that at all. 3 goals in a 15-minute period. Firstly, from Ilkay Gundogan, who returned to the squad after a stint out, and then a Foden brace, which I think is a little generous when we'll come to the second one a bit later on. But we'll start with you, Stuart. Gundogan back in the goals after his return to the team.
Yeah, I like it. Getting back, because he's our leading goal scorer last year, wasn't he? So we get him scoring again, and we should not miss that striker too much. I don't think if he can get scoring, we can get midfielders that can score 20 plus goals a season. You're not going to miss a striker, are you?
No, I think on this show a couple of weeks ago after the Liverpool game, I mentioned I reckon City could have probably won if we'd have had Gundogan in the team. And it was that late arrival again, wasn't it, that we saw so often last season. But I think we're all in agreement, probably. I'm second guessing, but Foden, another sensational performance from him. Bernard, just what was he like yesterday? He seems to dance about the pitch, doesn't he?
Well, I think if you put Foden and Bernardo in any other team, perhaps in a good team in the world, they're going to totally take it to another level, aren't they? I mean, I was watching some stuff on Bernardo yesterday. I mean, I was quite low down. It was hard to gauge, but I got an okay view because I was sort of virtually behind Edison and what have you. I could have actually run on and took his place, but I perhaps would have noticed. I'm not too sure. Perhaps he would have. But yeah, I mean, I've just watched that bit on Bernardo, but Foden's the same. I mean, he's reveling in this. I think Pep's given him a slightly different role now, and I think he's reveling in that. And not everything he did works out. Of course, it never does it? I mean, that's one. I mean, perhaps with Bernardo, it does. He never seems to do anything wrong to me. He just seems to always keep it. But Foden's perhaps a bit more dynamic in what he does, so it's not always going to come off. Obviously, what he tries, but. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Foden there. I mean, absolutely amazing. All right, we've had this, haven't we? With he's arrived now, hasn't he? And he's the first name on the team sheet, and it's simple as that. He scored 2. I mean, he had a cracking chance for an hat-trick as well, and
had a few chances.
I mean, it was going wide. Actually, I don't know why it was a poor finish. I mean, obviously, but he's not a striker, is he? He's a midfielder who scores goals, and that's what we've got at the moment. But I mean, it was another what's the word? Imperious display from Foden.
Yeah, striker, midfielder, goal scoring, heroic. He's all sorts of things, isn't he, Stuart? And it's easy to forget actually that just sort of over a year ago he made his England debut in the Iceland game in the Nations League. So it really has been quite the 12 months for Foden. He's first name on the team sheet for England. His first name on the team sheet for City. And again, comes to you, an absolute fantastic performance at the Amex.
Yeah, quality performance. He was excellent yesterday, and he was desperate for that hat-trick towards the end. He was like shooting from everywhere. He was all getting blocked, but future City and England captain probably. Yeah,
potentially even manager too, going quite a few years in the future. You mentioned the hat-trick there, and obviously the first goal, a blistering counter-attack. Grealish set Foden up, squared it to him across the box, and he finished really well. But the second one, I think, will go down as possibly the easiest goal he'll ever score, just by the virtue of not actually doing anything. Gabriel Jesus gets the assist, but it was his shot deflected off Foden. And Bernard, he was really trying for that hat-trick towards the end, wasn't he? And you reckon if he hadn't have had that lucky goal, that lucky deflection, he could have easily gone on to score a hat-trick off his own right, off his own bat, because the chances he had, probably some of the worst finishing he's shown since his time as a City player.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where obviously the second half, it was just such a rubbishy second half for most of it that, he probably had his chances to go his hat-trick in the first half, I'd say, and then obviously towards the end of the second half as it was. But I mean, the trouble is, I mean, he's only young, and he's only a young lad still. He's only so he's got to be a little bit. We don't mind him being greedy. I mean, I think the whole thing is players are greedy, like Grealish and Mahrez, etc., etc. We don't mind him being greedy as long as it ends up in the net, or most of the time it ends up in the net. But it is a little bit disappointed. I don't think Pep had a go at him about it. Did he, or anything like that? I'm sure he didn't. I mean,
I'm sure he got away with it. Yeah,
he might have had a little bit of a, obviously thought on a little bit, but you can't. I mean, you can't deny players like Foden the ability to do so. It doesn't happen often. It's certainly not happened often for him so far. So of course he's going to take every opportunity, and why not? But we were reasonably comfortable. Obviously, thankfully it didn't get too jittery too early in the second half. So why not?
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up a few Foden stats for the season. That was his third Premier League goal. It's 1 assist in the league as well for him, 3 goals in the Champions League, and another one in the League Cup as well. Stuart, is this sort of the season we'll look back in 10 years for Foden and go, this is the season that made him? I know he won Young Player of the Year last year, I think it was, but do you reckon this time he's up there with the likes of Mohamed Salah and De Bruyne as the men in the league?
He is definitely better this season than last season, and I think we will look back and be like, oh, that season with the fans back was the one where he really ups his game and has kicked on from there. I think definitely, yeah. I wouldn't put him up with De Bruyne just yet, but you never know. In a couple of years or so.
Yeah, maybe that was a little bit too optimistic for myself. But
no, we didn't talk about the fact KDB was dropped, did we? Really, we didn't. Not
was it dropped? Was it rested?
I know
we spoke, didn't we?
It's rested, but I mean, just to cause controversy, I think Pep dropped him because he's not been playing well. But as I said, I thought he'd improved the last game. The last 10 minutes was on the pitch, so I was a bit surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's obviously had a pretty rough time of injury, and it brings us nicely onto the sort of whole debate around team selection. Now, we mentioned on the show on Monday, Bernard, it's a really sort of crucial point, this run up to Christmas, for team selection and managing the games. You know, we're getting into a situation now where we'll come on to a bit later on, but City are going to be playing across 3 competitions if we can progress in the next couple of weeks. Now, the official line from the City camp was that Sterling wasn't fit to travel to the Amex, but after a pretty, I don't know, on Tuesday night, his cameo wasn't necessarily the brightest. He had a few chances, and there's a whole sort of question around Raheem Sterling. Is he going to want to move on? Can he sort of find his way back into a City team? And do you reckon that his time at City is done for Sterling? Is that the sort of game where if he was even 75% fit last season or the season before, he travels and he's involved? Because it was a pretty big game for my money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can be sorted on the pitch. I think we've had enough goals now, and I think obviously, even though Pep will say a different thing to the press and he'll say a different thing to everybody else, I think we know that he knows that. I'm sure Sterling knows, and this little bit of eruptions where he's sort of coming out with comments now, is he? So there's definitely something wrong there, and we know that now. It's not all sort of being swept under the thing and in house, if you like. They're both sort of setting their own stalls out, and Sterling's setting his stall out, but I'm afraid he's setting his stall out that he won't be with us much longer, I don't think, on the basis of what we're seeing. And I probably was injured yesterday, but to be honest, he wouldn't have started. There's no cat and hell's chance he would have started yesterday. No matter, even if he was 100% fit, he might have been carrying a sort of injury. But I would have been very surprised, because there's like 8 or 9 players now that Pep will put in for a game that he wants to win. Perhaps even up to 10 players that he knows if they're all fit, he'll play. And he's literally fighting for 1 or 2 places, Sterling, now. And he's not one of those guys, because he's just not. I say we've got too many players who can do a better, just as good, if not far better job than him in those positions that Sterling plays. And he's done nothing to warrant that. So I honestly think it's just a matter of time now. I can't see anything changing.
Stuart, is it a matter of time before Raheem Sterling packs his bags and disappears to Barcelona?
I don't know. I mean, I like him. I've had this conversation all weekend with my mates when we've been in Brighton, and they all say, don't slag Raheem off to Stuart. He loves him. But I don't love him, but I think the player we had 2 seasons ago was awesome. So as he just played too much football and he's a bit burnt out and needs a bit of a rest, give him a few weeks off. Let's see him come back. He's a confidence player. And over the summer for England, he was awesome. And then he comes back and he's lacking again. So maybe it is because he's having a contract. Does he not want a new contract or something? Is he not due to sign a new contract? So maybe, but he's not going the right way to get a bumper contract, is he, by being terrible? And I just wish I hope that he can come back and play for us the way he did the other year.
Well, we used to be able to loan out experienced players, not just young players. In the old days, we used to loan out experienced players.
I'm not sure Raheem Sterling would take a loan.
Why not just loan him out from January and see how he goes wherever he is, and bring him back and give him a new contract if he does. But I just think it's a City Sterling thing now. I mean, and like Stuart said, I mean, I love Sterling to bits, and we can never not appreciate what he's done for us. But at the end of the day, it's like a fighter, isn't he, who's had his day. You keep getting knocked down, and you just feel so sorry for him, and that's what's happening. I feel sorry for him. Honestly, I do feel sorry for him the way he's playing, because he does everything right, but he gets in the positions. His runs are excellent, everything. But it's whether he needs to pass it or shoot. He just can't get it right. And even if he scored a couple of goals one game, no matter what, I don't think it would help at the moment. No. I just think he's at rock bottom.
I've sort of scrolling through Twitter the other night, and it had passed midnight, and you get those on this day, however many years ago, tweets come up, and one of them came up actually from 2019 when Raheem Sterling scored a hat-trick against Atalanta in the Champions League just a couple of days ago, 2 years ago on the day. And it was really it was quite a somber viewing, actually, because he was a player who the stadium was near enough full, it was bouncing, the atmosphere was electric, and when he went through on goal, there was that sort of gasp of anticipation that he's going to score. This is going to be a goal, because it definitely looked like that. Stuart, you mentioned 2 seasons ago, Sterling was up there. I think he was against was it Van Dijk for the player of the season the season we won the league, and he was pretty hard fought not to have won that award. And he is definitely a player that needs confidence. But I suppose the counter argument to that is he's been at City for, was it 2015 he was brought in, just before Pep came Pellegrini's last season. So he's been at City for quite a number of years, and sometimes these things do go a bit stale. We've seen the likes of other clubs lose out on sort of recuperating some transfer fee for a player and them going on a free transfer. Just the last word for you, Stuart, on Sterling. Would you prefer to see him see out the remainder of his contract at City, or would you prefer to, at the end of the season, it's probably most likely, get a little bit of cash in from him and maybe reinvest it elsewhere?
If they're not going to renew his contract, then I'd say cut your losses and get some money back for him. I could see him being Newcastle's Robinho signing.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love that up in the northeast. Just going back to yesterday's game against Brighton and on the team selection again, Grealish returned to the Premier League lineup after sitting the Burnley game out. He got an assist for that Foden goal. Bernard, what do you think about Grealish yesterday? I thought he did well enough to deserve it was a decent run out, but he seems to get a little bit of stick from the Brighton faithful for what I'm not quite sure why he was being booed.
I don't understand the logic. No one can explain to me. I mean, no one in the media, the fans can't explain. It's just pathetic. It's just because he plays for City, just because he signed for City, the whole country has to boo a player who obviously has gone to improve himself, and that's the fact. It's just a fact of life, and it's absolutely pathetic. And the new opposing fans, if any of you are listening to this, you're probably not, but you're all pathetic. It's just a total. I mean, your own club, yeah. If you left, Villa, I can understand it with Villa. No qualms about them whatsoever doing it. They can please, but all these other non-entities like Brighton doing it and stuff, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I thought he started superbly. He's had a couple of quiet games previous to this, but I thought again he looked good yesterday. He was, without being spectacular, he was taking players out of the game. He was obviously, they were having to try and double up on him and stuff, and that's what he does. I mean, that's the sort of player he is. All right, he's not all fast paced and stuff. He's he perhaps slows it down at times, stuff like that. But again, a bit like Bernardo, he doesn't lose it that often. I mean, the only time he loses it perhaps is when he falls over, and usually he gets a foul. Obviously sometimes it's waved away, but generally he gets a foul, and so that creates an opportunity. So yeah, I was quite happy with Grealish. I'm sure, and he went like that, didn't he, to the as he passed.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up actually.
Yeah. So there you go. That was I was quite happy with him yesterday.
Yeah, when he substitutes there, he was getting a bit of stick from the rowdy Amex crowd, let's say, and he lifted his finger to his mouth to tell them to basically do one. Stuart, just on Grealish, obviously, I'll be honest, that when City were first linked with him, I was questioning the sort of validity of the transfer. I was like, excuse me, is this exactly what City need at the time? But since he's come in, I've fallen in love with the guy a little bit, because you can see he's got the charisma that, for me, I think City have lacked a little bit over the last few seasons. Obviously, things have been superb and we've won near enough everything under the sun, but it's almost been robotic in the sense, hasn't it, of, world-class team and this is what we do. But just seeing that little bit of, lifting the finger to the mouth and telling the Brighton fans to shut up, it's nice to have that player with a little bit more to him, a bit of an edge to them. And how do you reckon that his first, 9 Premier League games now have gone in a blue shirt?
They've gone well, I think, for him. I think he could do with scoring a few more goals, but he's not got to. It's hard, isn't it? When you pay £100 million for someone, it must weigh heavy on the shoulder of the players. They must be like, I've got to live up to this. And I have my brother who tells me all the time, when City sign a new player, it takes them a year to get to grips with Pep's philosophy and all that. He
System,
said, just get on with it and give him a year, and in a year he'll be flying. But I think he's done really well since he's come in. I'm not on the same level as you where I'm going to grow my hair like his, but I think he's done all right.
Yeah, well, if you are watching, I have had this trim much longer than you, so we'll leave that one there before we get talking about hair. But yeah, I know what you mean. Obviously, you want to see a little. I can see Bernard there just waxing his barnet. I know what you mean. Obviously, you want to see him that end product and his productivity to be stepped up a little bit. But you're spot on about the sort of time it takes for a new attacking player to come into a City team. I think it's probably, in football in terms, one of the hardest jobs in the industry to come into a Pep Guardiola attack, and the intricacy of the patterns of play and whatnot. It's not like, say, for example, Liverpool, where it's a lot more fluid. And I think if Grealish was to be dropped into that Liverpool team as they're playing now, he probably would have maybe 5 or 6 goals so far this season. But again, I'm more than confident of him coming to fruition, coming and sort of establishing himself on that wing position and really carving out a really good City career. Now, just Bernard, to sort of wrap up the Brighton talk, it's now City unbeaten since they were the loss against Tottenham on the opening day of the season away from home. How do you feel City have fared in this sort of difficult run of away fixtures? Obviously beating Chelsea, a nice point away to Liverpool as well. Do you reckon that we're back up to that sort of imperious on the road form that we've seen throughout the last 2 years or so, or do you reckon still City could do a little bit more?
I think we could do a little bit more, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, Liverpool and Chelsea seem to be hitting the straps, don't they? Let's be honest about it. All right, Norwich are no great shakes, let's be honest about it. But
neither United,
obviously, Liverpool and United are no great shakes, are they? But we'll see in a week or two when we have to go there. Hopefully, we can replicate something. But I think we got loads of. Yesterday, I was frightened. Well, not frightened, but for half an hour, I thought we didn't look anything like the champions. To be honest with you, we couldn't put more than 3 or 4 passes together at stages in that second half. And Brighton playing out from the back without playing, we're doing better than we would do. I mean, it's amazing. I just kept expecting them to mess up, but it was like watching City, watching them play out from the back, because obviously they were obviously in front of us for the second half. It was incredible the way they played out. Yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. But hopefully Brighton are excellent and very, very good, because they said they did make us play a bit rubbishy for 30 minutes. But again, that to me, City, we would have game managed that a little bit better yesterday. I don't think we managed it that well in the second half. I don't know why or what happened. But we just sort of let Brighton take control of it, and we couldn't put a foot on a ball. We couldn't put a string of passes together for at least half an hour in that second half, and I don't understand why. So that is if you say to me we've reached our imperious, but we've not reached our best by any means. I think there's work to do there, and I'm still confident despite our opponents. But we've got to be confident. But I think we can do tons. But I think we do tons better, because there's a lot of players sort of hitting some form now. But we want them to hit a bit more form, perhaps. I don't know. Perhaps we're greedy. I'm not too sure. But because I say there's a lot of players doing well. The Rodgers, the Cancelos are all doing well. But obviously we want a little bit more, I think, at the moment. I know it sounds a bit daft, doesn't it? But I'm sure there's more to come. Yeah,
I was going to move on actually from Brighton, but I think it's worth, Stuart, a word on the opponent themselves, because actually I believe they've taken points off Arsenal, they've beaten Leicester, and yesterday could have been a bit of a banana skin, actually, couldn't it? Because they've established themselves a really strong outfit this season under Potter. So to actually go to the Amex away from home, where we were defeated last season, albeit down to 10 men after we'd wrapped the league up, 4-1. On paper looks a fantastic result, but the paper doesn't necessarily show exactly what happened in that period in between, sort of just after half time and City wrapping the game up, does it?
Yeah, it was a great result in the fact that we won 4-1. But I think the players have come out and they've won the game, like you said, in 15 minutes. The game's gone then, and so they've come out after half time. They've come out with probably the wrong mentality, and they've taken the foot off the gas a little bit. And you can't, once you've gone so long with just like going through the motions on the pitch, it's hard to lift it again. So when they scored, it was a bit worrying, because it's like, oh, we're not going to be able to lift our game again now, but we got another one, so it's all right. But yeah, Brighton are a quality side.
I must admit, they scored a little bit early. They scored a little bit earlier, Stuart. They scored, say, on 61 minutes or something, as opposed to 81 minutes. I think it would have been even worse, because we actually took control back once he scored, but obviously there was only 10 minutes left. So Stuart's right there with what he's saying. It was just weird. I'm just glad we held out until the 81st minute, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it seems a fixture of... sorry, Stuart, go on.
I was going to say, but Brighton, they are a quality side, and they do play in the right way, should we say. Like, they're not trying to just survive. They try to come and have a go and pass it about a bit. And I think the fans... I've got a mate who's a Brighton fan, and he's well impressed with the manager.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Potter, I mean, they keep saying Potter for City, don't they?
I was just going to ask.
The options are there, mate.
Yeah, Bernard. Actually, I was just going to ask. Do you think he would be on the City shortlist if we're to believe Pep leaves in 2023?
I don't think he will be, but I'll tell you what, he plays some attractive football. You give him our players. I don't think he's as what's the word? As mentally as sort of, like you're saying, it takes a City player, say Grealish, it might take him a year to get into that. I think he'd certainly get into it a bit quicker under Potter, because I don't think he's as invested or however way Pep does it. But I say, based on what I saw yesterday, I mean, that playing out from the back, they were absolutely superb. So, I mean, on that basis, give Potter a decent striker or two and a couple. I say, if you give Potter, Bernardo and Foden, they'll be up there top four, no problem whatsoever. Top two or three even perhaps, because a big team, very physical. I didn't like the physicality. I was a bit worried about that. I thought, the whinging and the fans are whinging and all but they got 5 bookings against Norwich the other week and 0-0. And I mean, they got another 2 yesterday. Should have had more, in my opinion. I mean, the referee was very kind to us, but having said that, they were fouling us all over the place. So, yeah, that side of it I didn't like, but obviously Potter must encourage that in some way, that physicality. And why not? If you're playing a top team, you perhaps got to put it about a bit. So, nothing wrong with that. But I would be surprised if he did come to City. But yeah, I mean, he's certainly got a lot going for him.
Yeah, well, that's one for the future, definitely. But here in the current present, I'm just looking at the table now. Chelsea leading the way. All teams have played 9 matches now. Chelsea leading the way on 22 points. Liverpool jump up to second with that demolition win over Man United. They're on 21. City in third on 20. Now, if you look at the sort of comparison to this time last year, City had much less points than they do right now. And you remember, it was this sort of after the Christmas break, we went on that imperious winning run. So looking forward a little bit, we're gonna jump to the fixtures a little bit later on, but I just wanted to bring up something actually from the Brighton game. Phil Foden was the first City player since Mike Summerby in 1971 to score a brace whilst wearing a kit without a badge on it. Now, it's been a contentious topic amongst Blues.
Loads of badges. You just can't see them with the naked eye. There's loads of them.
Yeah,
it's been a contentious topic for Blues, but obviously a debut for the 3rd shirt yesterday. Now, quickly, Bernard, I can imagine your opinion on this is rather one-sided, since you're glamorously boasting off that shirt right now. But are you happy with the 3rd shirt? Do you like it?
I think it's rubbish. I think it's rubbish, mate. I think it's garbage. But I mean, it's a City shirt, so it's more a training top. Don't get me wrong, and it is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, people don't have to buy it, do they? So I mean, as simple as that. And I've sort of mentioned off air, in 1968-69, we wore a red and black striped outfit at Goodison Park, and we got beat in that game, and the fans didn't like that, but it became a little bit iconic. And then you zoom forward, don't we, to 1998-99 and the old high-vis kit. No one like that. I didn't, we bought it, but no one particularly liked it at first. But hey, another iconic kit, of course. I doubt this will be iconic, to be honest with you. I can't see it becoming iconic, but you never know. But hey, it's a City shirt.
Yeah.
I'm not into busy shirts normally. I like simple shirts, but I thought, well, I got there. I thought, well, it's okay. I'll get it. I've got a few extra. Some years I don't buy any because I can't afford it. But if I can afford it, I'll buy what's there. But yeah, it is more a training top. But hey, a 4-1 win on its debut. We can't really say more than that, can we?
Stuart, if City lift the Champions League wearing that shirt at the end of May, you're going to get it with your name on the back?
Not with my name on the back, but yeah, definitely. I get it. But they're not built for me, I don't think. I can't get into them anymore. I'm too fat now. But I like it. I actually like it as a kit. As a top, I like it. I think, it's different, isn't it? And I like it.
Yeah,
I the players yesterday. But
I was just about
for them,
to say.
innit?
Yeah, it looks when you've got the athletes, the strapping athletes that City's squad has, and they're running about in it, all built muscle and whatnot. It does look much better than say on your average punter. But
well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'll tell you what. After the match, when Bernardo and Grealish came over with the shirts to give them away, there was plenty of people going for it anyway. Put it that way.
They weren't sending it back then. Yeah, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, if somebody did get it and then they chunked it back saying, "No, I don't want this shirt." But no, it looked better on the players, but I'm yet to be convinced. We're not quite sure what kit City will wear in midweek, but there is a game to look forward to. It will be West Ham in the Manchester City Trophy. Obviously, I'm referring there to the Carabao Cup, which City are bidding to win for the 5th consecutive season. Now, this is another interesting one for me, Stuart. I'll start with you. It's a game against a team who probably take away Chelsea, Liverpool, City, the most informed side in the division, I reckon. And you could probably even stretch that across Europe. They're flying high in the Europa League, and I'm sure the sort of good feeling around West Ham at the moment, they'll be looking at this as a real opportunity, not only to get one over City, but to also potentially have a decent cup run. I'm looking at this game as another potential bananas game. I don't know if that's my pessimism. How are you sort of feeling about the game on Wednesday?
And with you, I don't think it's going to be easy, because I don't think we're going to go all out. I don't think he's going to risk the Fodens. They'll travel and they'll be on the bench, but I don't think they'll all start. I think we'll see players like Cole Palmer starting, because I still think he's going to rotate, rotate for it, because I don't think it's as important as the other ones to Pep. I think this season for him, he's going to want to make sure everyone's fit for the Champions League games. Yeah, spot on there. You sort of bring up the topic of team selection, and we'll jump to that in a minute. But I think it'll be really sort of interesting to see how Guardiola takes the approach for this game, because we're still quite early on in the competition. It's the second round for City. And in the past, I know there's a bit of a running joke that City only get easy draws and whatnot, but this is actually a really tough draw, Bernard. And how City set up with a league game at the weekend and another Champions League game after that will be really interesting to see exactly how much importance Guardiola places on this trophy this season. Do you expect a strong team? Do you expect a sort of rotated team, or do you probably where we're going to end up somewhere in the middle?
Well, I've put because I've been doing me little reviews for my own vlog, so I've put a team together that I think Pep will play. If you want me to give you that now,
sure.
I mean, obviously he said he's going to play youngsters. I don't believe one word of it, to be honest with you. I think the only youngster he'll play is Palmer, definitely. Obviously depends on Sterling, doesn't it? I mean, it depends if Sterling is fit or not fit. If he is fit and there's not a bigger problem, I think Sterling will play, to be honest with you. So my little starting team, based on the fact that that we've got to try and beat West Ham, but I'll tell you what, I'm not sure this team will beat West Ham. I'll be honest with you. I think if West Ham goes strong, I think we're in trouble here with this team. But this is what I think he'll say. I mean, unless he's going to fully commit and just go with all the guys for this. But I say we've got obviously Palace, a Champions League, and United coming up, haven't we? So you got to think he's not. So yeah, I'll give you this team anyway. So it might be totally wrong. I've gone Stefan. And I've stuck in Walker, but I fancy that lad at the right back who played in that guy. Forgot his name now.
Bashira, is it? Is that right?
They played in that Wickham game.
Against Wickham, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a potential for that, but I mean, I've had to stick Walker in because I just don't think he's quite up to it. It's not against West Ham, let's be honest about it. And obviously, I've gone Aki and Stones as central defence, total switch. And Zinchenko on the left, because when's he going to play otherwise? He's never going to play if he doesn't play on Wednesday night, let's be honest about it. The same with Fernandinho. He's never going to play start a game unless he plays on Wednesday night. So I've gone further. Of course, Gundogan's only just come back, so he should be okay. He should be okay to play. And say Palmer in midfield. And then up front, obviously, I said I've got Sterling, which we're not sure about. It's got to be Jesus and Mahrez, surely, because they're another couple of guys who've not played many games. So, that is not by nowhere near our strongest team. And if West Ham do go strong, I think that team is okay, but I'm down there on Wednesday. I'm not 100% confident we're gonna win that one, to be honest with you. But that's my team. But as I say, Pep might surprise us and go strong, or he might surprise us and stick a load of kids in. But that's what I've gone for.
Yeah, Stuart, moving on to you here. Obviously, City have won this competition at a bit of a canter in previous seasons with the strength in rotation that we've been able to sort of put out there. And the team you mentioned there, Bernard, is still stacked with talent. There's no doubt in that, but it's whether or not the likes of, like we've mentioned, Raheem Sterling and Mahrez, who have been a little bit out of sorts, can perform on what is probably going to be a really sort of hostile atmosphere in the London Stadium, which is not something we've said until now, really, is it? West Ham are really finding themselves in that ground. So, do you reckon? Do you have confidence that City can potentially, if they do rotate, progress into another late round in this tournament?
Yeah, I think we've got enough within a certain rotation to be able to win the game. Maybe we could just go full strength and then put that team Bernard's got out at Old Trafford in 2 weeks. Because it's not hard to win now, is it?
Yeah, well, obviously you are referencing the Liverpool 5, Manchester United 0, which is really, really sort of, it's lovely of them to do it on the 10-year anniversary to the 6-1 at Old Trafford. I think we're both right in saying that it doesn't eclipse that, does it? We've still got the best away victory at Old Trafford. We're confident in saying that, yeah. So just a quick sort of throwback before we move on. Bernard, how do you look back on that victory? Surely it's up there with one of the best.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, I was getting tickets for Old Trafford. My lad got into the Stretford End bit last year, but getting a ticket. Obviously, I've not been for a few years now, but I mean, it must have been wonderful for the guys who were there on the day. But it was what it was. I know they came back the season after and nicked the lead back off us, didn't they? And obviously, Fergie had his last. That was a bit gutting, really, to let Fergie get at least a little bit of a joy. But they never recovered, did they? And I'm only sorry it wasn't someone like Norwich who's done it today, and it was Liverpool who's done it, unfortunately. It can't eclipse it. And we've got it. I mean, it's like the 5-1, obviously in '89, was it? I can't. Obviously, it's just one of those epic games, isn't it? And they've done it occasionally against us, but it doesn't mean as much because obviously when they've done it, we've had a crap team and they've been good. So it's not the same, is it? Not when we're sort of battling for things. But it was nice to re-see it. We've moved on, haven't we? I mean, we used to live on those sort of things in the old days. I mean, it's just a nice memory now for me because I've got so many great memories to remember since. But you might, back in the 80s and 90s, we used to thrive. We used to live on that demolition derby, we called it at the time, the 5-1 at Main Road, because that's all we had to cheer about for about 20 years. You know what I mean? So yeah, I used to get the video out and watch it and stuff. On the old video player. I used to get it dusted down and watch the videotape of it and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter now. It's nice. It's nice, and we sung about it a bit yesterday at the Brighton game, of course, and as we do. But and obviously that was the Poznan was back as well, guys. The Poznan was back to a little, not total, but a little bit. But yeah, it's nice. But we've got some great memories now, haven't we, guys? So it's not quite as important now, is it? To be honest with you.
Yeah, City pulling out the back catalogue of hits over the last few days. And going back to the 6-1, Stuart, where does that rank in the pantheon of City victories over the last decade, let's say?
Yeah, well, I like it. Yeah, it's quality. It's an excellent.
Yeah,
It was an excellent.
I'm glad
game.
You do.
Yeah, it's one of the best in it. I mean, does you not often go to your neighbour's backyard and stuff them like that? Not many people do that in derbies. I mean, I was at the 5-1 in '89. That was my first derby. But I was also on the Stretford end that year. He beat us 5-0. So it was done at each other. We did it at home, but to go and do it away, it was amazing.
Yeah, and City will have another opportunity to go to Old Trafford and hopefully, if not match, eclipse the 6-1 in a couple of weeks' time. But before that in the league, of course, is the small task of Crystal Palace, who are another side who doing really well under a young, ambitious manager. Patrick Vieira's come in there at Selhurst Park, and I don't know about anyone else, but I watch Palace now on the sort of rare occasions I get to catch them play, and they seem a team sort of reinvigorated compared to the sleeping sort of meandering sort of snail they were under Roy Hodgson. Bernard, we'll start with you. Back at the Etihad, where City so far this season are unbeaten, how do you see the Palace game playing out?
If you look at the basic stats, I mean, the 15th in the league, or as I did this, I don't know if it wouldn't make any difference today, will it? United or Liverpool don't affect them, but they've only won one. They've drawn 6 and lost 2, so not the greatest. But yeah, like you, I've watched them and I've been quite impressed. And then when you've got Benteke actually scoring goals, there's something wrong. There's something right or wrong, depending which way you look at it, because that guy couldn't buy a goal for how long? I mean, the Crystal Palace fans wanted him to play at centre half at one stage last year or the year before. I remember going, their fan casts and stuff. They just thought, well, yeah, we don't mind him playing, but we don't want him playing up front because he couldn't hit a barn door. He can't hit a barn door. He's bum with a banjo, they say, don't they? The old things. But I think he scored 2 or 3 in the last 2 or 3 games, and he's coming very close to scoring a few as well. He's got a few good saves against him. I watched the Newcastle game and the one before that was at Arsenal. They played before that as well. And he's I tell you what, he's looking pretty good. I mean, we could have nicked him for him as a number 9 company. That might have been okay for us. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, all right. Yeah, they do look scary, but the Etihad, I mean, we've got to polish these guys off, to be honest with you. I mean, we'll put a strong team out. I don't think, obviously, we're not too worried the Champions League game the week after. We should be capable of winning that with a reasonable team. So, yeah, I mean, they do look better. And all credit, we'll welcome the manager back, of course. He's sort of one of ours. We've inherited him, I suppose, even though obviously a certain team wouldn't agree with that, as someone didn't when we used to bang on about Frank Lampard as a bit of fun. But, there's no sense of humour, some of these guys. They don't appreciate the northern humour sort of thing. But, yeah, I think we should have enough. But yeah, I have been quite impressed. I've been quite impressed with where they're playing. As I said, there's always something right for Palace. If Benteke scoring the goals, all credit to him. And they say they are looking a different animal now. Although some of those draws they probably could have won and should have won. It only takes a little tweak to turn those draws into wins, doesn't it? I mean, obviously it takes a little tweak to turn them into losses, but they looked capable of winning those games that they've drawn. So I think they'll do, 15th. I think they'll be higher than that by the end of the season, that's for sure. But we shouldn't be too worried. We should have enough to finish them off.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned there the draws. They're unbeaten in 4. They've obviously led in their previous 2 games. They led at the Emirates and they led against Newcastle. Stuart, do you reckon it's going to be the 5th time lucky for Palace and they can stretch that unbeaten run, or do you think City can maybe end it on Saturday?
I think City have got over the issues that caused us to draw against Southampton at home, and I think we'll do well, and I think we'll play them, and I think we'll beat them. But it's nice to see Patrick Vieira doing well as a manager, I suppose. Another future maybe City manager.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's definitely a time when Patrick Vieira, when he was in charge of, I think it was the EDS squad at the time. Now it may have been under Mancini or Pellegrini, but he was definitely touted as a sort of a manager in waiting for City, and it's interesting that he's gone away and he's worked on his managerial game. I think he went out to France, didn't he? And
he went to New York as well, though, didn't he?
Yeah, and that didn't really work out. I know MLS is a bit different, but it didn't really work out there. And it was similar at Nice, I think it was in France, where he struggled a little bit. But I'm happy to see him doing what he is. I think Palace are one of my more favourable teams in the league. I enjoy seeing them do well. And Bernard, you mentioned, coming back to you, the striking options they've got, they've been able to score goals this season, which was a real problem for them last year. Obviously, Benteke you mentioned, but also Edouard, who's been brought in from Celtic. City's biggest problem for me in the Burnley game was that sort of makeshift backbone. Now, without potentially looking forward a little bit too much, what defensive lineup would you prefer to see for that game to sort of eliminate the threats that Crystal Palace have going forward? Because City give away chances, don't they, let's be honest, and Palace will probably have a chance, and at the moment you'd back them to score. So how do you want to see City's back 4, back 5, if you include the goalkeeper, approach what is a pretty tricky test against some good strikers?
I think it's generally accepted our back 4 at the moment, isn't it? Obviously, Walker, Cancelo, Diaz and Laporte. I want John Stones back, I'll admit it. But at the end of the day, Laporte is doing enough perhaps to keep him out at the moment. But even, he does make some little errors. Diaz isn't perfect by any means. I'd love to see a Diaz-Stones partnership again. That's my favourite. But I can't, at this point in time, see anything more than Diaz and Laporte. And I think, the problem with someone like Palace is, yes, he will give us problems if the forwards get involved. But that's what we did. That's what we've been doing in a couple of recent games. The Brighton one, for instance, we're giving them too much ball. But if we don't give them the ball, we don't give them that option to get the forwards involved, we'll be fine. Keep them away from our defence, and we have a goalkeeper who's perhaps a little bit more confident and coming for stuff. He's looked a bit jittery recently, a little bit, and. I think deny them the ball. That's the whole point. That's what Pep says, isn't it? If we've got the ball, that's what the problem we have when we struggle in games. It's because we're not denying the team the ball, and we're not getting the ball and keeping the ball, and that's part and parcel of Pep's philosophy. We've got to do that, and we've got to do that against Palace. Saying that back four that's at the moment the number one back four, if you like, or the main one we're going for, is quite capable as long as we've got the midfielders. And the guys who are playing the false nines and the guys who are playing up front are actually hanging on to the ball, and we're not giving it up easily, which we have tended to do in a couple of recent games. But we should be all right with that.
Yeah, interesting there. You mentioned John Stones, who has had a real tough time with injuries at the start of this season. He was obviously part of that imperious duo with Diaz last season. Pretty much the backbone of City's, was it 18-game winning streak last season in between 2020 and 2021. So I was expecting him to be the man this year. Obviously, there was links with Laporte being taken away, being touted elsewhere. But Stuart, just coming to you on the John Stones scenario. How do you expect him to sort of approach these next couple of games? Because he could definitely have some starts, couldn't he, against West Ham and Palace? And would you prefer to see him brought into the team, or would you prefer Laporte?
Definitely. When you said what back four do you think we'll see, I initially went Walker, Diaz, Stones, Cancelo, and it's just that was just my preferred back four. I like to see John Stones do well, but then I like Laporte as well. And as long as Diaz plays with either of them, they do all right. It's when we put them together, I think it's a bit more shaky, but even they do all right even then, don't they? So I think he definitely gets some starts. Yeah, he'll do some starts. I think he'll get maybe West Ham, maybe not Palace.
Yeah. So
what worries me, Amos and Stuart, is obviously the personal problems again, wasn't it? He didn't travel the other day. I'm just hoping it must be sorted because he was on the bench against Brighton, so it must all be sorted and figured out. But obviously that's what affected him when he was going through a bad patch, wasn't it? Personal things. So I'm just hoping that it's just something quick and easy that's been sorted and is okay now. It's just something that's because we don't want that John Stones who struggled. Let's be honest about it. We didn't all know why he was struggling at the time, did we? It was only came to sort of out afterwards. We found out obviously he had a few personal problems. So hopefully, as I said, fingers crossed, this has been okay.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird actually when you look at it over I'd say probably before last season, the previous 5 campaigns to it, City's biggest weakness was a consistent defence. And when we did find one that seemed to stop the goals from going in, one person got injured, usually Vincent Kompany or someone like that. It seemed an absolutely catastrophic run of events after that, where we were just sort of trying to find 2 players who could actually fill that role. I remember, I think we went to Crystal Palace actually one season, it might have been Everton, without any central defenders, and I think Fernandinho and Rodri started at the back. So we have had it tough, and it's weird that we sit here now today and we go, well, actually, I'm not quite sure John Stones would go in, or I'm not quite sure Laporte would work for this game or whatnot. But just sort of finishing up on Crystal Palace's trip to the Etihad on Saturday. Obviously, last season was behind closed doors and it was a 4-0 victory for City. It was probably, for me, when I look back, one of those real sort of statement victories in the league. I think it was a Sunday night, one of those weird sort of Sunday night 8 o'clock kickoffs that have thankfully been done away with this season. But just prior to that, it was 2 unbeaten trips for Palace to the Etihad, a 2-2 draw in January 2020, when they actually led, and then obviously that wonder goal from Andros Townsend in 2018, just before Christmas in 2018, when Palace won 3-2. So Bernard, they have enjoyed success in recent years at the Etihad, and I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, given the rotation we're likely to see, whether or not in this game or in the West Ham game, if it is another one of those stuttering games like we saw against Southampton.
Yeah, I mean, he could, obviously Burnley wasn't convincing, was it? And that was obviously, so you're talking home games. I mean, obviously that's the last 2 home games. We weren't very convincing, to be honest with you. And obviously Palace have recent memories of success. It's not as though they're having to go back 10, 20 years. I mean, obviously, as you said, it's all the last 2 or 3 years when they've done very well. And the confidence will be up, as I say, like you said, even though the 15th, they probably deserve to be higher than that as well. So they will certainly won't be bothered. I personally would be a bit miffed if we don't go full strength for this. Hopefully, we've got a full strength team we can put out. As I say, because I think we'll need to. And obviously at the moment, how we are third in the league, we've got it's only 9 games in, but we've got to keep winning. We've got to keep winning. We can't afford not to because we're. It's last year it seemed stiff, didn't it? But obviously we blew everybody away. But this year, there's a couple of other teams who look as though they might blow teams away as well. So we should be going and beating Palace at the Etihad. And anything less than a victory will be a bit of a disaster. But as I said, we have had 2 rubbishy home league games. So, yeah, it is a bit of a worry, but I've seen enough to know we should be all right. But we'll go strong. I don't think he'll mess about, Pep, with this. If he's going to mess about, he'll mess about with the game before this. But I think with this one, he'll go strong. It's a Premier League. We need to keep winning. We know the competition's tough this season for us to get a back-to-back. It's no easy job by any means. So I think we'll be all right. But Palace will be confident. It'll be an interesting game. Again, for the neutral, I think there's a lot of games that City play that for the neutral are quite good at the moment. I mean, perhaps not so much for the other, the Chelseas and the Liverpools. I mean, this is a bit one-sided. But with City, even though we're brilliant, we seem to be playing some interesting, tough games at the moment. But it's just how it is.
Definitely. And Stuart, do you see 2 wins from 2 to round off the week and round off October?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll go strong. Like Bernard said, he'll definitely go strong against Palace. I think all the league games he's going to be wary that the teams around us keep winning. So if they keep winning, we've got to keep winning and don't want to let them get too far ahead, do you? And then try and pull it back.
Yeah, definitely. And just after that game, we'll touch on it slightly to round off. We return to the Champions League. Brugge have their return leg. They come to the Etihad. We're halfway through in that competition now. It's been 2 wins and 1 loss. Bernard, quick thoughts on the 50% run so far in the Champions League and how you think it's gone and how you think the next 3 games will end?
Yeah, it's been okay, hasn't it? It's been okay. That's all I'll say. It's not been fantastic. We beat who we should have beat, and we didn't beat the team. Perhaps we should have done on the night, but we just didn't. It's simple as that. Obviously, our little flaws came through on that one, which they will do. And if a Sky will make a comment about strikers and stuff like this, obviously we'll leave that to Pep to comment on it. But it will happen. I mean, and Pep's quite right, and obviously Sky are quite right to point it out. I mean, we're all right to point it out. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, as long as we see Brugge off, I'm calling them Brugge now. We notice I've dropped the Bruges. I've gone all Brugge now, like you.
Continental.
So I've learned. I've been educated, but I've been told Bruges is all right because we're not from Bruges. But there you go. It's one of those things like Bury and Bury.
Yeah.
So halfway through, yes, it's okay. Not spectacular, I don't think. Say some good 6-3 and a 5-1 to say it's not spectacular is sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But it hasn't.
Sign of the times.
Yeah, it hasn't been spectacular, particularly. And we'll beat them at ours, and we'll all be enlivened, of course, if we can actually stick a few past PSG. I think that'll liven everyone up again to the Champions League. At the moment, it's a bit tepid, to be honest with you, but we'll get there. We'll be okay.
Yeah, obviously the Brugge, as we're now calling them, the game in midweek was 5-1. Brighton was 4-1. That's the 6th time this season City have hit 4 or more goals in a game, which isn't bad, is it, Stuart, for a team that has no strikers?
It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah,
I know.
With striker issues, then we can still just bang them in. Which it must be terrifying for defenses to try and mark that front 3 when they're all moving around. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it reminds me of the way. Have you seen that Last Dance with the Michael Jordan thing?
Oh, yeah.
Where they do the thing with the triangle and everyone's just moving about all the time. That's what it reminds me of when I saw it over there. I thought, oh, yeah, that's like our front 3. They're just all over the place.
Fluid,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you see City, Stuart, progressing from this group? Obviously, the Brugge game was, for me, a must-win. Anything other than 3 points there, and we really have a sort of tough couple of games to end the Champions League group stage. But do you reckon now we're in an unassailable position?
If we win the home game now, I think we're pretty much through, aren't we? 9 points, and then you just got to pick up another point, really, ain't you, to get through. I'd like to win the group, but you don't always end up these days with the easier draw. If you win, like it used to be, you finish top, get a second place, and it's definitely going to be easy. But with the way some of the groups go these days, sometimes you can be better off finishing second and drawing whoever, Sheriff, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird, isn't it? Because that was the case at the start of the Champions League. City obviously won our league, but a weird 12 months in Europe meant that the likes of Sporting were in pot one and Lille were in pot one, and saying that you'd have expected United to get through their group, but they seem to be making it difficult for themselves, don't they? Bernard, any sort of last City related or non-City related words from your end?
I'm just having a look at any notes I've made about what we've done recently. As I say, I've no real problems. I think we covered everything. Perhaps we didn't touch upon offsides, which we'll touch on another day, I suppose, and what's offside and what's not offside when a penalty happens a bit after it. But that's just VAR. They change it, but they never get it right, do they? There's always going to be something wrong with it. So. That's the only thing that sort of I was quibbling about, obviously, from the Brighton game. Obviously, being there, we didn't realise it was only after the event. Obviously, we find out and how far do these things go back. And just to thank you for Kevin Friend for actually being a good referee. For one, we've had two actually. Was it Atkinson the other day, and now Kevin Friend sticking up for us. Was it Atkinson the other day?
Yeah, against Burnley. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously giving us the rub of the green, and just to see those Brighton fans having a whinge. Yeah, well done, Kevin, mate. Perhaps we've got a new friend on the referee, Mr. Kevin Friend. Who knows? Yeah. But that was an interesting thing as well. But no, fine, great, that mate. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for doing this. It's been a good time. There's nothing better, is there? Really, United to get chat with City guys on this. Nothing much better, really.
Stuart, any VAR complaints or complaints any otherwise? The bin's been taken out on time. Everything good?
My bins are all right, but I don't like VAR. I can't stand it. It just can't get with it. We was having a conversation at the weekend. If they're going to do it, just do it properly. Let us know what's going on in the ground. I mean, American football, they throw a flag down and then the ref comes on and says, he did it and this is what he did and this is where he did it and this is what's happening. So why can't we do that?
I think
we can just add in there. I mean, yesterday at the game, because all our goals came at the other end, and Stuart felt this as well. I didn't really celebrate apart from that fourth goal that was at our end, because you thought there was a foul. You thought something had happened, and the linesman didn't put his flag up or anything. So in the old days, you could celebrate quite happily, but it does. It consistently ruins it, especially because you think the goal has been fouled. You think, it's going to be ruled out for VAR. He's going to get rid of it. And sometimes it may have been ruled out for VAR, but it's just say the atmosphere when we score. The atmosphere is great, but when we score a goal, you're just not in. Like Stuart said, VAR, you're just not involved. It just didn't feel right. You couldn't see anything wrong with the Gundogan goal at the end. So you thought that was great. Obviously fantastic. But I mean, that could have been called back for something that happened 2 minutes before, couldn't it? So yeah. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it, lads? I mean, we just have to put up with it. But there you go. It's not great. I mean, I'd love to go back to the old days, but it's never going to happen, is it? And just slagging the refs off for making the wrong decisions and line holes, which I thought was far better. I thought it was bad at the time, but now I realise it was just far better than what we've got now.
Got more people to slag off now.
I'd absolutely love to see Mike Dean run into the middle of a football pitch with a big headset on and start speaking to a 50,000 seat stadium. I'm not quite sure his where's he from, Tranmere? Yeah, I'm not quite sure his Wirral twang would delight the senses. But no, it's been great to chat to everybody. It's been Bernard, it's been Stuart, it's been myself, Amos as well. Life is always good when you support Manchester City, and here's to another fantastic 7 days for the blue half and the only half of Manchester. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.